Hey everybody, it's Josh. I wanted to talk about timing. For me, timing is one of the greatest miracles, and the way God shows us exactly how He has everything under control. You're going to have to excuse me, the heat is out in North Carolina. So are the bugs. And the biting ones, especially the horse flies and biting flies. Oh, they are so much fun, aren't they? Let's see if I can get rid of this one now. But timing is really, it ties together so many things. When I was saved, I know I've explained it so many times, but I was at my lowest. I was completely broken. I was ready for it all to end. And God came to me in one of the most profound messages. The white-tailed doe came out of the woods and walked alongside of me like it was my pet dog. She walked alongside of me 10 minutes after I had broken down and begged God to save me, to show me a sign. So, as profound as that was, the doe was a symbol of peace, of motherly love, of spirituality. This was just after my mother had had her stroke, a couple months after that. And a couple months before my mother-in-law would pass away. My wife and I were talking about how so many of the elders in my family are getting old and sick. They've been in the hospital, almost all of them. And, she was saying how she loses anymore. It's going to just be too much for her. I told her, I was like, we're going to lose everyone in our lives. Except for God. We're going to lose each other at one point. One of us is going to die off before the other. And everything will change with each of these deaths. We used to have so many of my family and my wife's family come and visit us down in North Carolina. They're all either up in Virginia or Pennsylvania. And there was only certain people who would take the time to actually come down and see us. And now they're all too sick, too disabled themselves to come in and see us. And it really made it lonely. Because that happened, just before my mother had the stroke. They were getting so sick where it was harder and harder for them to travel. But also during that time, we see new friends and some old friends coming into our lives. And these friends were exactly the type exactly the people that especially my wife needed. God brings us all into each other's lives. The timing is profound. If you go back and look at your life and look at the miracles in it, look at the suffering in it, finding the meaning of your suffering, you see that these things happened exactly when they were supposed to. I think I've mentioned, gotta get those spider webs off. I've got all kinds of things going on today, guys. It's gonna be almost as bad as that day I was on the lake and the boats and jet skis and planes were going by. Now I've got these bugs and sweat and spider webs and you gotta love it. I'm telling you, this woman, her name is Vicky. She's an amazing woman. One of the strongest Christians I've ever met. Who actually lives by example and not just the hypocritical way that a lot of Christians do. Oh no, I've got the horsefly back. I heard him and then he stopped, and when he stops, it's like when your kids stop. You know, when you hear your kids being loud, you're like, oh, it's not being bad. But when they're quiet, if they're not on their pad or something, oh man, you know something really bad's happening. But anyway, so Vicky comes into my wife's life, and after my mother-in-law's death, my wife was just torn up. And of course, the government makes it 10 times harder because they want you to just be able to basically give all the assets, all the estate over to them, because that's what they want. They don't want you to have anything. They want us all to be living in huts in the ground and eating bugs. Maybe we'll eat this horsefly that's flying around me. But we had 2 broken down cars. You know, they were good enough to just barely get back and forth to my kids' school. And my wife had to go back to Northern Virginia to settle some things with her mother's estate. And so she started just losing it. All of the grief was hitting her, and she needed to go. And I was like, we're just gonna have to get you a rental car. It's the only thing we can do. We're gonna have to do what we can. But she just kept freaking out, and I was like, I took her hand, and I was like, God will show us the way. I expected her to fight back on that, because that's how our relationship used to go. Me saying something and her telling me how stupid I was about it, because 9 times out of 10 it was pretty stupid, the things I said. I said, God will lead us through this. And she stopped, you know, the crying stopped, and we both took a deep breath, and within an hour or two, we had gotten a loan, gotten approved for a loan, or at least found this loan that we could get where we could buy a new car that would actually work. Turns out later that loan wouldn't even be approved, but it didn't matter because that gave us time until an hour or so after that. You know, my wife was just still so torn up, but her friend Vicky shows up at the door and just comes in and hugs her and says, I will take you to Virginia. I will go with you into every single place you need to go. Get the estate squared away. I'll go into the courthouse with you. You're not alone. And after all that, you know, my wife's tears turned from grief and frustration to just tears of joy. And I told her, I was like, this is the power. This is the power of God. Now, I can't tell you what kind of miracles are going to take place in your life if you seek God. I can't tell you what kind of miracles will happen or even when they will happen. When you have faith in God. But I can tell you, even if it's something you least expected, it will be exactly what you need at exactly the right time. Now, my wife and I, we're kind of lower middle class, borderline poverty, I guess, but still in the middle class, above the poverty line, just enough to be in that gray area of, oh, you're not going to get assistance from, you know, healthcare or anything, but you're still broke. So it's that void that I know many of you probably watching are in as well. Maybe not, hopefully not. There seems to be a gap from, I don't know, anywhere from like 30,000 a year to what, 45 or 50, somewhere in there. The government says, oh, you're wealthy. Not quite wealthy, but you're too wealthy for us to give a damn about you, for sure. But I think that's where we were supposed to be. I noticed that as much as we struggled with money, it took about, I don't know, 6 months to a year, maybe a little longer. I wasn't worried about money anymore at all. I used to sit up at night just sick to my stomach thinking, what is going to happen? Are we going to lose our home? Are we going to lose this and that? The medical bills are piling up. It's just disgusting. But since I've learned to put my full faith into God, to guide my every step, because every step is a trust fall. And with that trust fall, you can have faith in the chaos and darkness of this universe guiding your step. You can put your faith in yourself, have your ego shining through. Or you can put your faith in the greatest ally you could possibly have, in God. And it's certainly not like we're rich or anything. We're still poor. But then again, I feel like the wealthiest person alive. Although I doubt many wealthy people have horse flies flying in their ear right now. Besides that, it's not all luxury, right? No, I feel like the wealthiest person because I know that God came to the oppressed, the weak, the poor, the disabled. He came to them. Oh, gotta get this spider web before I walk into it. Look at that, I got it. Now I'll walk into the next one. He came to them, born in a manger, baby Jesus placed into a trough when he was a baby that the livestock eat out of. Certainly not what you would expect from the King of Kings. But he came there at exactly the right time for exactly the right reason in exactly the right way. This was between almost every other religion known to man. If you look at the center of it and the time when the world was becoming more of a hub, a international type thing. Well, like at least, you know, in the Middle East area, but you know, you had, after Christ sent the Holy Spirit to the disciples, the apostles, you had them go all over Africa, Asia, the Middle East, of course, Rome. It spread like wildfire. And how would it was really the first and the only religion of pure love. Pure love straight from God himself. The timing is always going to be something that, if you ever have doubts, if you're ever doubting this was a message from God, first of all, when you get a message from God, you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt. But then the darkness always creeps in and you'll start doubting yourself and second guessing. So then you break it down logically. Look at the timing of the event. Did this happen at a profound time in your life? Like mine, I needed that message of hope, that message of the Holy Spirit right after my mom's stroke and right before my mother-in-law's stroke and death. And all the suffering and all the death that would follow in the next years. We've had so many family members die in this short time span or come close to death. And I told my wife the next few years are going to be rough. We're going to lose a lot of people we love. But this is why God came to us now. He could have come to us. I was suffering tremendously, and so was my wife, for 13 years before he decided to come to me. He could have come, why not after a year or two, You know, I understand you gotta feel that pain. You gotta learn from that suffering, but a year or two was plenty for me. So why not then? Because the timing wouldn't have been right. The deaths in the family and all that. Okay, I better wrap it up. I'm gonna go walk by the river real quick. See the people having fun. Don't want to bother these people down here. But always look for the timing. And you think things can't get any worse at times, and they absolutely can, unfortunately. But there will be hope when you need it the most. And the best thing to do is just to start seeking. Don't be dumb like I was and just give up on the hope. I still had faith. I still believed. But I'd given up that God would intervene in my life. And he showed me. I've never been so happy to have been so wrong. God bless you all. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great week.